to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera Reed.
And I am your co-host, Maylin and
Well, welcome back. If you are just joining us for the first time, welcome. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. In the last episode, we talked a little bit about just the courage to change course, and and that could mean something different, whether it be personal or professional. And I think Maylin and I had just open, raw conversations about what does that courage look like to us. And so if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, we would encourage you to go back and listen. But today we really want to talk about, the responsibility of being great. And I know that can sound like, well, what Christina, what do you define as great? You define that however you want to define it. But I think for me personally, really how I show up, my mindset around who I am, who I'm becoming, but understanding that when you choose to pursue certain ambitions, when you choose to, apply for that leadership opportunity, when you choose to have children, when you choose to get married, because these are all choices, by the way. And I think oftentimes we get in this perspective of like, I didn't have a choice.
In many places, sometimes in some you don't. But this is for the places where you have a choice.
Yes, these are scenarios that you do have a choice. And it's also thinking about, do we really think about the responsibility that comes along with that? And I think it's just sometimes we follow Instagram, we follow this speaker, it says, you got to have a business. So you run out and start a business.
Oh my God.
Or you're like, okay, I'm pushing 30. I'm not married. I don't have this. I'm 40. I don't have that. And you run out and you
maybe the first person that you see.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's time. I don't care who it is. Let's just do this thing. And it's like, are we thinking about the responsibility that comes along with all of these decisions? And I think it's, especially like in leadership. Like, I know we've talked very candidly even about, and this is not to get political because that's just not the purpose, but it's just like, man, like there are people who are in positions of power, whether it be political, whether it be running a Fortune 500 company, whether it be running a school as a principal, whatever the case may be, that are making decisions on our behalf. And they're not always in making decisions that really are for the good of others. Mm-hmm. And so I think today I just want to talk about like the responsibility that comes along with being great and whatever you define as being great. But a big part of it is like that fixed mindset versus that growth mindset. And what I mean by that, thinking back on like how you were raised, for example, there were certain things that you were like, oh, you can't do this because of this, this, and this. That's a fixed mindset. Someone has taught you along the way that this is how it's supposed to be. You don't question it. You kind of fall in line and you follow along.
Yeah. And it was more not like this is how it's supposed to be. It's because what I hear was because I say so.
Right.
You live in my house. This is my roof. So, and you were like, but that don't make as a kid, I was like, but that doesn't make sense though.
Right.
And I wasn't able to question then. So I just remember growing up with this, but that doesn't sound right. Because I'm a very logical person. Mm-hmm. Like either makes sense or it doesn't.
Right.
And if it doesn't, can you please explain your point of view? So maybe then I have some clarity. But when I got was because I say so, and that's it.
Right.
That's it. Right. So you grew up with that fixed mindset, and many people that we come across with are in that fixed mindset. They cannot see past a thing because this is how they brought that, and they never did the work to really grow into can I see things differently.
Yeah, which is a perfect example of a growth mindset. It's it's the opportunity to really evaluate decisions, situations, people from almost like a multi-lens perspective. Like sometimes it's not just cut and dry. Sometimes it's not just one side or the other. It really requires you to kind of think through and kind of analyze and channel through, okay, well, maybe this, or like you said, just like the whole process of like how you used to think back then, whereas they didn't want you to have so much opinion and so much
or brain
or input, but you did, and that's how your mind filtered things. And so I think like a big part of what I'm learning, even now in this season of my life, in running for office, it wasn't something that honestly I ever thought I would do. I'm not a politician. But
why did you?
I think for me, it got to a place of, wanting to see change, wanting to see scalable results to really help people. And, I've spent, my adult career, serving and in service in the nonprofit sector, helping in the very same industry that, I'm also pursuing now politically. And so for me, it's just about service. Like, I just want to be able to help my school district really, create the type of environment that I wish I had when I was in school. I remember sitting in classrooms and not having proper, heating and cooling, and, having, bugs in our building, and, the violence even back then was crazy. Like, I mentally had to prepare myself every day for something to go down in school. Like, it just was what I was mentally prepared for. And I remember my first physical altercation was in the 7th grade. And, I never want anything to turn physical, but I knew the environment that I was in, it was very uncontrolled. And, but then thinking back, the way that they had things set up, our school looked like a prison. The way the walls were painted, the way the doors were barred, the windows were like, I mean, there was just so many things looking back where the environment was not really an environment outside of, this hostile space that I had to go be in 6 to 7 hours a day. And, to see that even though our city has evolved in so many other ways, that our schools are still like that. And my kids go to school in the same district that I went to. And it saddens me that I have to be so vocal every single day in their education.
You're an advocate.
Yeah, because I know what it's like. I've been in those classrooms. And so for me, I've understood early on that I understood the responsibility that was going to come along with leading, not only, as a community servant, but as a parent. And now, in running for office, meeting other people who, I can't say everybody joins the political realm for the same reasons, but it makes me question, like, do they really understand the responsibility that comes along with choosing to lead and to be of service to other people?
Yeah. And you have learned so much. And I think having a fixed mindset is what keeps us stuck. And this is what keeps us at a failing grade as a school district, right? Is that people are like, well, this is how we always done it. Well, have you always done it? Is not working.
Right.
So at that time, you have to put your ego to the side and say, okay, so if that's not working, how do we change this, right? The same thing about the courage to change. What needs to change? What other ways can we do this differently? And that's, I think, what the growth mindset was for you, because we could have been like, other people are going to continue. Other people will fix this. Other people will fix this. And for 10 years, we have watched not being fixed. If anything, it's getting worse. And now it's like, okay, now you have kids in the district. Now we have girls that we serve in the district. Now we're getting calls from parents. We get calls from school administration crying because they're so upset that they don't know what to do or how to really help. And they're asking for support. So at that point, we're like, well, maybe where we are, we need to go to a higher level to make a bigger impact. And that decision wasn't easy for her to run, or for us to add one more thing to the awesome pot that we have. But it was a level of, I almost see it as a sacrifice, because it is bigger than us. And now it's like, we can, where we are, we only can do so much.
Right.
So thank you for sacrificing. Because you are in the, we're in the back, but she's in the front lines. And if you know Christina, she's usually in the back producing magic, and now she's in the front because this is so important to you.
Yeah.
Really,
and I think that's going back to what you talked about, like a couple of episodes. It's like your why, and I think that anything that we do, if you are looking to advance in your company, why? Are you really in a position, are you ready to really pour into people all the time? Because they pay leaders to solve problems. You are a problem solver, and having a growth mindset is essential, because ultimately you are responsible for so many different things. So it can't be fiscally driven or title driven. Some people get really excited about fancy titles, and you know, we are not those type of people. I don't care about a title. Either, I keep telling people, even in regards to like, either way I win, because either way I still will continue to serve and to help my community in any way that I can. So it's not about a title or any of that for me. So that has to be a question you ask yourself. Like, what is your why? And so when you're pursuing leadership roles, when you're pursuing, you know, starting a family, pursuing wanting to be married or in a partnership of some sort, like, are you really ready for the responsibility that comes along? I have cousins who haven't yet started families and, you know, are not in relationships, and they come hang out with us for a couple of days and they're just like, yeah, you know, I don't know. I like to take naps. I like to kind of just get up and go. And so it's like you get caught up in the idea. But are you really ready to be somebody's wife? Are you really ready to be somebody's mother? Are you really ready to be somebody's CEO where you get all the calls? You have to be like, what do we do, coach? And it's like, I just want to chill. And it's like, no, you signed up for this. So really evaluating, like, as we're making these decisions, you know, certain things happen. You know, I'm not saying like you got to have a 20-page document, bulletproof plan. But I'm just saying is just like we have to really check our egos and not going after things simply because they sound good on paper or they make us sound important, because ultimately we have to start changing the questions we're asking ourselves.
Absolutely. And your why is important. So like, why are you doing it? So let's say you're going for a position. I'll tell you this an example. I used to work for a major bank, and I was extremely encouraged to apply for a supervisor position at the time. And I was, I think you can call it a team lead at the time. So I was in charge of like coaching and helping, you know, and all of that stuff. And I really love that. Like, I love escalator calls. Like, you have a problem. You are mad. You want to burn the building. Call me, because I dealt with that, right? I got training in that. And I love really seeing the transformation of people going from a really upset place and a really dark place because that's pain to a more like, oh, I get it, thank you, right? Like that's my thing, that's my jam. So that was my job. And then when I applied for the supervisor position that I was encouraged to, the terms they offered me were not in agreement with me. They were not part of my non-negotiables. You know, the title was what they were really trying to flaunt at me. Like, here's you're going to be a supervisor and you're going to make $1,000 more. I was like, you're so funny. What do you mean? I'm going to be in charge of people's livelihood, because that means I fire and hire people, right? I'm going to be in charge of a team, which means having a family, right? Monitoring, babysitting, whatever you want to call it. And then you're going to give me $1,000 more and I'm going to work crazy hours. Where does this seem like a good deal to you?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, no, thank you. And I definitely declined respectfully. And I went back to my team lead job, and you thought I got a raise because I was so happy. Like, I was excited about my job because for me, it was what I was doing. I really enjoy. So after 2 weeks of them being mad at me because I said, no, how dare I? This was like a thing for me. They came back and they're like, okay, well, it didn't work out with whoever they chose. And I was like, really? And they're like, so we want to talk about your terms now. I said, okay, let's talk about my terms now. So because I wasn't upset when, you know, I say no. I wasn't upset they went with somebody else. And I truly love what I was doing. I wasn't doing it for the title. I didn't care about the title. I had titles before. I didn't care about that. They're like, okay, so obviously she's the best person for the job.
Right.
Let's talk about terms. But if I had a closed mindset, right, or a fixed mindset, and I was like, well, if they don't give it to me now, I'm not going to do my job well. And how dare they? And you go with that attitude,
right,
then at that point, they're not going to consider you for that other position, because then your attitude now is not what they need for this team.
Right.
Right? So now if you are applying for a job, and I'm saying this to you right now because I know many of you are going for promotions. I have talked to many of you that are going for promotions. And you don't get that promotion, instead of getting like, that's it, I'm quitting tomorrow, or being this like super negative person, ask yourself, why didn't the promotion happen? Is there anything that you can do to improve yourself for the next time the promotion comes? Or maybe it's time for you to find a different job in a different workplace, because maybe this is not the place where you get promoted for whatever reason. Then it's time for you to make a change. But don't be that person that makes everybody else's life miserable because your thing didn't go your way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And why do you want the promotion? Like, that's another part of it. It's just, you know, really, really taking the time to kind of sit with, what is it that I'm asking for? Because we can't complain about things we pray for. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes people are like, you're constantly like, I want this. Okay, you're manifesting. You're being intentional. You're putting in the work. And then when things start to happen, you're like, whoa, 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 this is too much. This is a lot of work. I wanted a business, but I didn't know I wasn't going to sleep. I didn't know, I wanted, you wanted kids, but you didn't know you was going to be, really stretched. I mean, you have to think about the why, and am I ready to put in that type of work? And I'm just saying, I'm not saying that all entrepreneurs don't sleep. That's not true.
In the beginning, we don't.
In the beginning, you don't, maybe, and some do. But I'm saying everybody's situation is different. But I say all that to say, looking back, sometimes I just wanted things because they sounded great in the moment. I'm like, oh, okay, this would be a great opportunity. Not realizing like, okay, how many people am I going to impact by taking this? Running for office, that wasn't a decision. I just woke up one day and I had to talk to my whole family. Are we cool?
And your friends?
Yeah. Are we cool with this? Yeah. Because my decision to do that was not going to impact other people. So I think it's important when you figure out who your personal advisory board is. Figure out who are really the people who matter to you and, are part of your everyday life. And now I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about, at the end of the day, who are those 4 to 5 people that really truly matter to you? Talking with them about what you want, because the responsibility sometimes is really great. It is very time consuming. But if it's something that you really want and something that you're, really preparing for, then that's fine to go after those things. But understanding that when much is given, much is required, and you have to be ready to put in that energy, because ultimately what you do will impact many, many people in more ways than one.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about in another episode about negotiations and things like that. But as you're thinking about making a move and you find your why, if your why is you need more money, then be clear about that. If you're going for a position or starting your business because you need more money for whatever you need more money, money's great. Yeah. Then make sure you're clear about why you want it, right? Don't say it's about the people and the impact when you really care about the money, because you can create impact anywhere you are. So think about that. And then if you are going for a promotion, that is the time to ask for more money. That is the time to negotiate this. If they tell you they're going to talk to you about it later, that's not true. So please make sure that if you're getting a new job, a new title change, that is the opportunity for you for them to change your money. And if not, like, you can do a little bit of research, reach out to us. We can connect you with super awesome people that do negotiations. But that is the best time. I know many people that at the time when I used to work there, they're like, oh, I'm going to get this. And, they say later in a couple months, we'll talk about salary. I said, no, this is the time I actually talk about salary. And they'll go back and they're like, what? Like, that's why you need a coach, right? They'll go back and be like, actually, this is a great time to talk about salary. But if you don't do that, it would take you years to get to like $10,000 more, where you can just go from a jump on a one negotiation when you get in a new title. Right. So don't sleep on this.
Yeah. And the whole fear of missing out, I think, that FOMO is so real. You hear about it all the time. People making decisions just simply based on fear of missing out.
There'll be no other opportunity if I say no. There will be.
There will be other opportunity. It may not happen the next day. It may not happen even that year. But there will be other opportunities. There will be other companies. There will be other potential candidates to date or what have you. Like, don't ever make decisions based on emotion, based on, fixed mindset. I mean, really thinking through. Now, there's also like a positive, I guess you could think about, like, I think sometimes we're so like fear of missing out. Like when I was younger, especially because I became a mom so early on, like I used to see my friends online, like hanging out, kicking it, doing this, doing that. And I was at home, like, changing diapers, right? And so, part of me, like, man, that messed with my mindset probably for a good 5 or 6 years, because in my mind, I was missing out on some experience I was supposed to have. And then I made a silly decision based on FOMO. I quit everything. I quit my job, gave up my apartment just to move to another city to go to school.
To experience that FOMO.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do what they did. They all left for college. I'm going to leave for college. Gave up everything. I got out there and I was like, okay, so y'all don't have money. The house is all messed up. I couldn't find a job on campus. It was just all, and I sat there in my room one night thinking to myself, like, you just gave up all of this stuff because you thought you were missing out on something, when the reality was I was exactly where I needed to be, and I was actually making moves. And so I spent the year in FOMO land, not happy, not being productive, to only have
and the consequences that
the
came
consequences.
with that.
I lost my brand new car. I had a brand new car when I went out there. Lost it because I couldn't make the payments. I remember waking up in the middle of the night. My roommate was screaming my name. She said, "Somebody's stealing your car." So I hop up, like put my sweatpants on. I was like, "Oh my God, somebody's stealing my car." I go outside. It's a tow truck company. He shows me the paper. He's like, "Ma'am, we have orders to repossess this car." And I said, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Yeah, you didn't make your payments. So we're here to pick up the G6. And
G-Bye.
I was like devastated. And not only that, the embarrassment.
Right.
Because now my roommates is looking like, wow, she didn't pay her car payment. And it was just FOMO put me in a position of losing everything that I had worked so hard to get up into that point.
That you were blessed with.
And didn't understand not only the responsibility that it took for me to acquire those things, and the everything I had to put into to get there, just to lose it all. Literally lost everything I had worked so hard for in that year, and then had to come home and rebuild, and really started to change. That was a defining moment for me with the whole FOMO thing. I really stopped evaluating and comparing my life to other people the year I lost everything, because those same people that were like, "Go do it, come up here, I got you." Nobody had me. Nobody had me.
It's not funny.
No, it's not funny. But I had to call my mom. Like, "Mom, can you put money in my account? My account is negative. I lost my vehicle. Like my child was displaced because I was not focused.
She was in good hands, though.
She was with her father, thank God. And so it was just all of these things that, not understanding the responsibility that I had signed up for, and understanding that FOMO, fear of missing out, is really a perception. It's really a mindset that can shatter everything that you've worked so hard for. So you look at people comparing their relationships to stuff you see on Instagram, like, "Oh, he is just so romantic," but he's out here.
He's out here.
And I'm not even going to say what he or she is out here doing, but we both know what I'm talking about. Because I know I used to watch J-Lo and A-Rod. I was like, "Oh yeah, J-Lo, A-Rod." They had a bomb Valentine's Day. He bought her this big elaborate roses. I was like, this is just so beautiful. And then like 2 months later, there was pictures of her and Ben Affleck. And I said, "Espérate, Jennifer."
And they look great. I'm not hating.
I'm not hating, but I think everybody in the world was like, Jennifer.
I was a little shocked though, because that Dominican, I know we're going to take a side step to Dominican Republic for a minute, but she was in Dominican filming a video, and he went there to, I don't know, ask for forgiveness. This is what I read in the tabloids. I don't know them personally, but
we
I love
don't really
them.
know them. We're just going
right. We love them though. But I thought things were being worked out, and all of a sudden I see her looking hot as ever with a new boo. And I just saw a picture to them of him with a new boo too. So I was like, wait. So don't be comparing yourself to J-Lo and
the FOMO. Listen, this not only applies to business, this applies to personal relationships, because I was just as shocked as all of you when I seen her stepping out with Ben Affleck. And I was like, okay, all right. So anyways, that's not the point. However, I guess the point is really to like,
people were probably hating on her. Yeah, like, look at them. I want what they have. Do you not want what they have?
Yeah. Do you, I mean, how do you know she's really happy? Right. And you talked about this in the last episode.
Yeah.
People looking in and they only see a slither. We only see a percentage of people's real lives.
Absolutely.
People on Instagram, they're influencers because they want you to believe that they live this picture perfect life, that they have all this money, buy my webinar so that you can be like me. And it's like, well, you just made them like that because you just bought their webinar.
Right.
So just understanding like the mental responsibility. So not only we were talking about in the beginning, like the responsibility of being great, but understanding the responsibility as individuals to make our own opinions, our own choices based on our own research, and not just surface level research based on Instagram or social media or what my cousin's best friend's mom told me. Like, make your own assumptions, do your own research, and ultimately looking at like, everything I wanted in life I had at one point prior to this whole FOMO thing seeping in, but I had allowed so much outside influence to tell me what I was doing wasn't the move. And now looking back, like, I'm so blessed and I'm blessed, and it's not an everyday situation. Like, things are not perfect. Things are not where, you know, like you see on TV, but I'm okay with that because I know I have something real. It's not like just for the gram. It's something real that I'm working for every single day in my business, in my professional life, and in my personal life. But I had to kind of wrap my mind around the responsibility of figuring out what I wanted for me and the choices that I need to make to be in alignment with what that is.
And being authentic. So I think it's important to clear, because I think in my last episode we talked about what you see on Instagram, and many people that you see on Instagram, maybe at least one of them believes what they're putting. So sometimes one of them is like authentically how they feel, and and then the other person might not be authentic in that. So you have sometimes to understand that maybe this is something they want to see or they want to manifest, so they post it. So it's not that like trying to lie. I'm not here coming at J-Lo and A-Rod. I'm just saying, like, sometimes people come into social media and they share this happy moment because at that moment it is a happy moment. Maybe they had a hard day or they had a hard week, but for that moment they had a happy moment, and they're so happy about that moment that they want to share with the world, right?
Yeah.
So and I thought about this today earlier when we were listening to some stuff, and I said, you know, I think if people, when they see other people happy in social media, instead of wishing to have their life, because you don't know what comes with that, so be careful what you wish for. Maybe you just send them a blessing, right? Like maybe you say, you know what, good for them.
Right.
Watching them being happy, watching them enjoying life, you know, they made it. Like that shows me that there's a promise that could happen for me too. So if they did it, I could do it.
Yeah.
Can we do it that way? Can we just shift and go into the growth mindset?
Yeah.
And instead of hating on them or wishing that was you or he was yours or she was whatever, just say, you know what, great for them, bless them, and be like, you know what? What's mine is mine.
Yeah,
what's mine is mine.
My turn.
Yeah, what's mine is mine. I look at people and I'm excited. I get more excited about things. I'm like, oh my God, you think it's happening to me, because I'm excited for them because it's a promise that could be yours.
Yeah.
And being authentic, like I see a lot of, I mean, when I hear motivational speakers, when I hear people that do, you know, workshops or they do videos or whatever they do in, you know, in the Instagram life or in real life, you know, now I ask myself, are they authentic? Right? Like, can I feel it? Like, I actually check my gut, because my gut is real good. Like, is that message authentic? Is that coming from an authentic place? And if it's not, then I pray that when they get there. For me specifically, even before all of this years ago, I have had this desire to be authentic. I don't like fakeness. I don't like fake people, because there's no reason to be fake. Now, if you're using this as a defense mechanism because you've been so hurt and being fake is the only way you can survive, like my heart goes to you, and I hope that you find a way to be truth, because there's such a beautiful liberation in being truthful and just being who you are. Now, not everybody likes me. As positive as I am, as I am, I know people that don't like me. And for a while, I struggle with that. Like, well, why do they don't like me? Like, I'm nice to everybody. They don't have to like me. Like, I'm going to be me, and you either like me or you don't. Who really needs to like me is me.
Right.
When I wake up in the morning and I look at myself in the mirror, I got to be like, do I like you?
Right.
Right? Am I proud of what you're doing? Am I proud of who you're becoming?
Right.
That's because I sleep with me, so I have to make sure I'm okay.
Right. I agree.
You know?
Yeah. So no, I think that's right, in alignment, and just going back to what we really want our takeaway with all of you to be, you know, with you today, is just the responsibility that comes along with being, you know, successful, whatever you deem as successful, whatever you deem as being great. And the responsibility that comes along with the decisions that we make, you know, and not making decisions from a place of FOMO, fear of missing out, or comparison, you know, or, you know, desperation.
Yes.
Don't make decisions based off desperation. So I hope this was helpful to you. You know, continue to like and share. And if this message touched you in a way, you know, leave it in the comments. We always like to hear your feedback. But you remember, you know, as we always say to all of you, these messages are, you take what applies and what doesn't. Maybe it's just not for you today, but ultimately we also know that it's bigger than you.